My sister managed to persuade my parents to cut me out of their will, claiming I wasn't worthy of an inheritance. They mistakenly believed they had triumphed when I chose not to challenge them. It was revealed when the lawyer contacted them 3 years later, and the truth came out. I really should have suspected something was amiss when my mother neglected my birthday for the very first time in 3 decades. It wasn't just the day itself. Birthdays were a significant event in our family. As a child, Mom would always make a big fuss, with balloons, homemade cakes, and those embarrassing birthday crowns that she forced me to wear. Even when I was a teenager, thus when my birthday arrived and passed without even a text, I attributed it to her being preoccupied. However, peculiar little things started adding up, initially. The changes were minor. My father stopped sending his regular weekend check-in texts. Bella, my sister, was normally quite vocal, but now her remarks felt specifically aimed at me. For instance, when she snickered about how some individuals just don't know how to manage money. She made this comment while looking directly at me across the table. I didn't dwell on it too much. She's always been that way, making snide remarks for no particular reason. But then she continued, "It's a good thing Dad and Mom have me to keep everything in order." I recall being seated there, my fork suspended midair, trying to understand the nuance of her remark. It wasn't the actual words, it was the self-satisfied expression, as though she was privy to some information that I wasn't. The initial, obvious indication that something major was happening emerged. At a casual dinner at my parents' home, Bella had begun visiting more frequently than she had in the past. It happened every week, sometimes even more. At first, I didn't give it a second thought. She resided nearby and possessed a talent for inserting herself into everything. However, that evening, things felt off, deliberately crafted. We were about halfway through our meal when Bella spoke up and said, "Mom, tell Sean about the estate update." The estate update? What in the world was that? Mom appeared startled. Dad coughed and gave Bella a stern glare, but she just acted like she didn't do anything wrong, like, "What? He'll find out eventually." I didn't push the issue then. The whole situation felt uncomfortable. Instead, I just let it simmer in the back of my thoughts, bugging me for ages. Why hadn't my parents brought this up? What could have changed? Then 2 weeks later, I received a text from Dad. "Family meeting this Sunday at 3 p.m. important." This made my stomach do a flip. Family meetings just weren't a typical occurrence in my home. The last time we had one was to decide who got Grandma's antique china after she died. I headed over to their place early, hoping to get a clue about what was happening. Bella was already there, looking pleased with herself in the living room, holding a mug of tea like she ran the show. She didn't even offer a greeting. Mom and Dad walked in looking uncharacteristically serious. Dad cleared his throat and said, "We want to discuss some adjustments we're making to our will." I didn't like where this was heading. He continued, detailing how they'd been looking over their assets and rethinking what was fair. Mom added, "We feel." Bella's been taking on more responsibilities with Mom and Dad recently, and I learned we've made the decision that she'll inherit the estate. I was stunned. "The whole estate? You mean the house and everything? And the assets?" Dad chimed in as if that was supposed to make it clearer. "Bella's the one who gets it all." Those words kind of sat there uncomfortably. I tried to keep my expression blank, but inside I was a mess of emotions. They weren't just referring to a few family treasures or the house itself. This was most of their money, their investments, their savings, everything. I didn't say anything. Maybe I should have, but at that moment all I could think was, why did they do this? I had always been well behaved. I paid my bills on time, had a stable job, and avoided drama. Bella, conversely, had a track record of maxing out credit cards and talking her way out of any trouble. Yet I remained calm. "If that's what you believe is right, then all right," I said. Bella's smirk was huge, almost mocking. "Wow, no argument, that's grown up of you." She gave me a look, then left soon after. On the way home, I kept going over our conversation, analyzing every single thing that was said. The more I dwelled on it, the more I understood how cleverly Bella had set this whole thing up. The little jabs, the increased number of visits, the way she always made a point to help out when I wasn't there. Several weeks went by, and I tried to forget about it all. But then, something very odd occurred. A former classmate from high school sent me a message out of the blue. "Hey, is everything all right with your family? Bella has been saying some peculiar things about you." When I inquired about her meaning, I became incredibly angry. Bella had apparently been informing everyone that I was reckless with my finances, that I'd gotten loans from our folks and never reimbursed them, and that I'd abandoned the family. It was all completely false. That evening, I phoned my mother and father. They sounded aloof. My mom brushed off my worries, commenting that Bella was simply trying to look out for everyone in the family. She added that I should be thankful for how much she'd taken on recently. Stepped up. I didn't know if I should have burst into laughter or started yelling. Bella wasn't taking charge. She was orchestrating a takeover. I could have retaliated. Maybe I should have. However, at that instant, I understood that I couldn't prevail. My parents had already reached their conclusion, and Bella had played her hand flawlessly. I wasn't going to plead or demean myself for something that should have been founded on confidence and affection, not on deceit. So I withdrew. I stopped coming over, ceased calling, and stopped trying to mend things. It didn't warrant the effort. If they chose to believe Bella's fabrications, so be it. I'd go ahead and create my own life separate from theirs. 3 years went by. I was able to establish a career, located a place I loved, and attempted to progress. But every now and then, I'd overhear a little comment, Bella bragging about her new vehicle, or how she had taken over the management of the family's money. It hurt, yet I maintained my distance. Then last week, I received a message on my answering machine from a legal representative. The voicemail from the attorney wasn't just unexpected, it felt like opening a door to a room I wasn't expecting. Mr. Sean, this concerns you. I think there are some papers you really need to look at. Please give me a call back as soon as you can. I listened to it 3 times over. My parents' estate, I heard. Honestly, I hadn't even thought about it in ages, not since that family gathering where it was plainly stated that Bella was the favored child. I'd simply accepted that I was going to be excluded, so why was a lawyer suddenly contacting me? I returned the call that same day, later on. The attorney, Mr. Harding, was courteous but also a bit cautious over the phone. He wouldn't share many details, just that it was absolutely essential we talk in person. I scheduled the soonest available meeting, my curiosity getting the better of me. His office was compact and organized, situated in a calm downtown location. Once I got there, he motioned for me to sit down in front of his desk. "Thanks for coming," he said. "Sean," he started, leafing through a pile of documents. "I've been looking over your parents' estate arrangements and something peculiar has come to my notice." My pulse quickened. "Peculiar in what way?" I asked. He paused for a moment, carefully selecting his words. "As you know, your parents revised their will some time ago, giving the majority of the estate to your sister." He continued, "However, there are some inconsistencies in the documentation she gave to back up those revisions." "Inconsistencies," I repeated, a little baffled. He pushed a file across the desk for me to see. "Examine this," he said. The initial sheet seemed ordinary enough, a signed copy of the revised will, but as I began to look through it, I saw notes and comments, legalese that made no sense to me. Mr. Harding started to explain. "Your sister presented financial records, emails, and additional paperwork to back up her claim that your parents' earlier estate plan was out of date and didn't match what they wanted." He took a beat. "However, some of those documents seem to have been tampered with." "Altered in what way?" I questioned. He indicated an email that was printed and among the papers. "This one, for instance, its date is 2 years before your parents made their modifications, yet the embedded data implies it was produced more recently, approximately when your parents were updating the will." I gazed at the paper, the words swam together. "Bella faked an email." As Mr. Harding showed me the evidence, a clear idea began to come to light. Bella didn't just influence my parents. She'd gone to great lengths to get them to trust her. Fabricated emails, inflated financial details, and even made up evidence that showed I was irresponsible with money. She convinced them. I had borrowed money I never repaid. I realized the truth of the situation was dawning. She'd claimed I was incapable of handling responsibility. Mr. Harding responded with a nod of agreement and a serious expression. "Your parents believed her. These documents were important in persuading them to change the will." The anger hit me like a shock. I had spent ages swallowing my pride, trying to convince myself it. It just wasn't something to argue about. All that time, Bella had been totally dishonest. Why did no one ever see through that? I wondered out loud. My sister gave my folks everything they required to make their choice. They and their previous lawyer had no need to question it. He sat back in his chair, but now, with the recent loss of your parents— Hold on, I stopped. "Say what?" The room became quiet. Mr. Harding's face changed. "I figured you already knew." I shook my head firmly. "Knew what exactly?" "Your parents passed away just last month. That's why I'm managing their affairs now." The news hit me hard. My parents were gone. How could I not know? I grabbed my phone, looking through old texts and emails. Anything. There was nothing. I hadn't talked to them in a long time, but someone would have told me, wouldn't they? "Your sister didn't tell you?" Harding inquired. "No," I replied. He let out a long breath, massaging his forehead. "Sean, I'm truly sorry. This must be hard to deal with." Hard barely covered how I felt. Bella had kept me in the dark about my parents' passing, likely so I wouldn't turn up and stir things up. The truth of that was like a punch to the stomach. Over the following days, I couldn't get rid of the sense that there was more going on. Bella wasn't simply trying to take control of the estate. She was concealing something from me. I returned to Mr. Harding with a new feeling of desperation. Is there anything else I should know? Anything that would help me understand why Bella kept this from me? He paused, then grabbed another folder. There's one more piece of information. My grandparents had set up a trust fund specifically for me before they passed away. It was separate from the estate, but it was designed to be given to me when I reached the age of 30. I looked at him intently, waiting for more details. Then my sister was named as the alternate recipient in the event that they couldn't find me. I felt a chill go down my spine. Bella had clearly manipulated events, making it look like I was flighty, undependable, and undeserving, maybe so she could get the trust if I remained out of the picture long enough. I asked how much money was in the trust. Harding responded that it was a substantial amount, which was enough to possibly explain her behavior. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Bella. She answered on the second ring, and her voice was loaded with a fake pleasantness. "Sean, wow," she said. "I wasn't expecting to hear from you. What's up?" "Cut the act, Bella. I know everything," I said. There was a moment of silence. "Everything?" I followed up, referring to the fabricated emails and the lies. Then there was the matter of the trust. Her tone changed immediately. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. "Don't pretend you don't know," I said. "Harding showed me the papers." She laughed coldly. "So what, you think you can just waltz back in here and take what's mine?" "It's not yours," I said sharply. "It never was." Her voice turned vicious. "You left, Sean. You didn't stand up for yourself. That's your problem." I hung up before she could say anything else. Though my hands were trembling, I felt a flicker of resolve for the first time in years. The final update, when Mr. Harding called me. My heart skipped a beat. "Sean," he said with a serious tone, "I found something new about the trust. It completely changes the situation." That short statement really shook me up. After spending weeks unraveling Bella's deceptions, I honestly believed I'd uncovered everything there was to know. Apparently, I was mistaken. "Can you make it to my office tomorrow?" he inquired. "You bet," I replied. The following morning, I got to his office, experiencing a combination of both intrigue and anxiety. Harding motioned for me to sit and then put a single sheet of paper on the desk between us. "This," he stated, pointing at the document, "is the initial paperwork concerning your grandparents' trust. The important thing is this section right here." I bent forward, focusing on the words. The part said the trust would be completely passed to me when I turned 30, but that wasn't all. If I didn't actually claim it within 3 years of reaching that age, the money wouldn't go to Bella as the backup receiver. Instead, it would be transferred back to a charitable organization my grandparents established years ago. Harding gave me an expectant look. "So what does that mean?" I questioned. "It means Bella wasn't able to claim the trust for herself. Nevertheless, it also shows she had a really short time frame to prevent you from learning about it." Things suddenly fell into place. Bella's lies, her controlling behavior, even keeping the secret about my parents passing, it was all just part of her overall plot to run out the clock. If I hadn't heard that message at that exact moment, the trust would have simply vanished. Why would Bella do this? What if she couldn't obtain the funds? I inquired. Harding's take was that this was really about having power over me. Her aim was to separate me from everyone, damage my ties with Mom and Dad, and ensure there was no possibility of me ever getting back in the family's good graces. Control. The idea felt like it had far more weight than it ought to. Bella had always been one to strive for success, and she was always seeking to be the focus of attention. Back when we were kids, she'd struggled to get the smallest measure of acceptance from our parents, even when it wasn't a competition. However, this transcended mere sibling rivalry. It was all pre-planned. During the following 7 days, Harding and I gathered all the evidence we could. Fabricated emails, doctored paperwork, all of Bella's attempts to leave me out of the loop. There was one especially damaging find, a sequence of messages that Bella had sent to an old college acquaintance. In these, she boasted about how simple it had been to have the will altered, and how she had persuaded my parents that I was completely unreliable. "I'll make certain he won't come poking around," one message read. "By the time he finally gets wise, it will be too late." My gaze was fixed on the display, and a chilly feeling was developing in my gut. It was more than mere dishonesty, it was outright sabotage. I realized that I couldn't allow Bella to get away with all of this, but I also understood that she wouldn't confess to anything voluntarily. Consequently, I chose to speak to her face to face. When I showed up at her home without warning, she appeared startled but composed herself immediately. "What a surprise," she asked. "What's brought you?" I didn't delay. "We need to talk about the trust," I told her. Her expression hardly changed, though her eyes gave her away. What could I trust? I wondered aloud. "You know what I'm getting at," I told her, walking inside without waiting. Harding uncovered the paperwork, the fake emails, the deceptions you fed to Mom and Dad, the whole mess. Bella was silent for a second. Then she let out a laugh, a cold and empty sound. "So what, you believe you can actually prove anything?" "The truth is, yeah, I could," I responded, raising my phone. "I have emails, statements from people who saw things, and those private conversations you had with Sarah. Do I need to keep going?" Her smug look started to fade. "You just don't get it," she argued. "I did what I had to do. Mom and Dad believed in me to handle everything. So by misleading them, by turning them against me? They needed someone strong," she shot back. "You would have ruined everything they worked for." Her words cut deep, but I wouldn't allow her to change what happened. This wasn't about them. It was about you. You craved control, and you didn't care who got hurt in the process. Bella tried to defend herself. She called me self-centered, unappreciative, even accusing me of abandoning the Sayyid, their family, when difficulties arose. However, the more she talked, the more obvious it became that she was truly scared. The following day, I officially filed a grievance with the person managing my parents' estate. Bella's choices not only made their updated will invalid, but they also opened the door for potential legal penalties. Once the whole story came out, my parents' friends and our extended family were shocked. Bella's perfectly crafted reputation completely fell apart almost immediately. I always felt like she was the shining star, the one that everyone looked up to. But now, the people. The world could see her authentic self.